right, thanks for tuning in for another segment of the Timmy Willis Show. You know, you've heard his voice on the radio. You've seen him as the master of ceremonies at many oldies concerts. Ladies and gentlemen, it brings me great pleasure to bring to you the one and only Mr. Frankie Day.
Timmy, welcome. I thank you for having me on the show today, and we're going to have a good time.
Oh, yeah, it's a pleasure. I'm so glad you took time out from your busy schedule to come down and talk to us.
I'm delighted to.
Okay, well, let's get started. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. Where were you born?
Well, actually, I was born on, I lived in Blackador Avenue in the Homewood East End area. And, of course, my parents lived there, resided there. And I was actually born in Pittsburgh Hospital.
Is that right?
How about that?
Yeah. So
October 27th, 1940.
Oh, that was a good...
I even remember that date.
That's a good day for you, huh?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Now, was you born, I mean, was you raised up in that area there?
Yes. Well, yes. My parents actually moved later on, and we lived at 1348 Point View Street.
Okay.
And right above Paulson Playground.
Yeah, I know where that's
at. Montezuma Street.
Yeah.
Ted's Dairy Store, Bill's Barber Shop, all the conveniences types dairy store.
Yeah.
And of course, how about Max Klein's Pharmacy?
Okay.
That was a great place to be.
Now, what was that like for you growing up there?
It was actually a fabulous area.
Yeah.
You know, in today's life, what's going on today, my kids have missed out on so much, really. Because back then, my sister and I, we used to walk up the street, say, hi, Mr. Taylor, hi, Mrs. Taylor, hi, Mrs. Cancian, all the way up to Nuzzo's Dairy Store. We knew everybody on both sides of the street and waved to them. And of course, people always said, hey, here comes the Diddy kids. You know, they know our names. And I cherish that very, very much.
Yeah, so
really.
More or less like the neighborhood was more like a big family.
It was one big family.
Yeah, everyone knew each other.
Unfortunately, the kids miss out on that so deeply, did they? Really?
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, what did you do for fun as a little boy, man?
Well,
what did you like to do?
I played baseball.
Did you?
Oh, yeah. Went out for Little League, made the team. And I was a pitcher. And I remember at Paulson Playground, hey, Dougie Small was in the audience, in the stands, and he yelled out, Fireball Diddy. That's how I got my name.
Is that right?
But actually, I was not Fireball. I threw the ball so slow, you could count the seams on the ball coming in. But actually, my father taught me how to throw a hook and a curve and a drop at a very young age.
Okay.
And for those people that are viewing this show, I never really had one sore arm from throwing a breaking pitch at 9 years old.
Is that right?
Honest to God. Never affected me. I never woke up one morning saying, oh, my arm feels bad. Looks like I can't go out there and do the job on the mound. But I played for the Little League out there in Paulson Playground. Mike Soma was our coach. And I pitched, and when I didn't pitch, I couldn't hit. Oh, believe me, I was the strikeout king. But because I played pretty good defensive ball, I played center field when I wasn't pitching a lot of times. And Tommy Butler was our catcher. Oh. And Tom's still living today, along with myself. And he was a great guy. And we had lots of kids that we became very close friends, really, in the neighborhood. We would spend 90% of our time down at Paulson Playground playing ball.
Well, that's pretty impressive because you said at the age of 9, I mean, you were still in elementary school.
Yes.
And, you know, throwing that ball like that.
That's right.
You know, I also played Little League, and guess what my nickname was?
Go ahead.
Swing and a miss.
Well, we have something in common.
Yeah, I wasn't very good.
We had a 0.50 batting average. But, you know, I made the All-Star teams every year because I was a pitcher.
Okay.
Yeah. So I take great pride in that.
Yeah, you should.
We had some great ball games and great players. in the Lincoln Avenue district. We had a very good team, to be very honest with you. An excellent team.
Right. Okay, and then so you graduated, you went to junior high school. What was that experience like for you?
Well, I actually went to elementary school, Leamington Grade School, and then I went to high school, Westinghouse High School.
Westinghouse, the Bulldogs.
The Bulldogs. Hey, I don't think I ever saw them lose a major game, a City League game, in the 4 years that I went there.
Okay.
Pete the Imperio was absolutely a phenomenal coach.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to actually, you had to play football to have him as a coach.
Okay.
But I got lucky. I had him for 3 years out of the 4 years attending Westinghouse High School, and he was power-driven to take those young men and make good citizens out of them, just like he did Tony Liscio, who finally got drafted for the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
But Pete the Imperio set examples for young people to guide them in the right direction, and I'll never forget that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think I want to let you know that this year, 2013, the Westinghouse Bulldogs are still winning the championships.
How about that?
Yeah, they won this year. It was brought to my attention that the boys and the girls won this year. So,
well, they had that tradition, and they, of course, they had a wonderful band.
oh, the marching band.
The
yeah.
marching band was terrific. You know, and you get psyched, you know, when they were out on the field.
Yeah.
I didn't play football because I only weighed 130 pounds when I graduated.
Okay.
Didn't have the guts, to be honest with you, but I did have asthma. So in my when I was young, in fact, I still have it today. So actually, I wasn't permitted. I was actually taken off the basketball court with a doctor's submission of sending down to the local office and saying Frank Diddick cannot play basketball, no running around. And actually, I didn't go swim classes or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
But the baseball was a little different thing.
Right, right.
And I enjoyed that.
Yeah,
I played, of course, all the way up to 17, 18 years old. I didn't play for the high school, okay? But I enjoyed playing baseball very much. Made a lot of very good friends.
Right,
very
right,
good friends.
Right.
We had a terrific team.
Now, did you go to the prom?
I sure did.
Well, what was that experience like, man?
Well,
Take us there.
That was a real nice experience, and we had a great time. And of course, that brings back again memories, like you always remember the prom things and the things you did in school. But along with that, myself, I actually worked through my high school years. I had a job. I worked at Max Klein's Pharmacy.
Is that right?
I was a soda fountain jerk.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, and waited on the kids. I worked until 6 o'clock. After school, I worked 3 to 6, 3:30 to 6, whatever it was, for a couple of hours. And I loved making strawberry milkshakes.
Okay.
With Lance cheese crackers. Still my favorite today, buddy. Right? Yeah, they were great.
So when did you first start working? When your first
well,
job,
actually,
first
14 years old.
14.
Schwartz's Sanitary Supermarket.
Yeah.
I worked there, just bagging groceries. I like to keep active.
So you started a work ethic at an early age.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's very good.
And then followed that, I worked at Kubrick's Open Air Market out in Frankstown Road.
Oh.
Worked there at nights. My father used to come work at Westinghouse Air Brake. He was a machinist. And of course, I was too young to drive, but he came and picked me up at 10 p.m. in the evening.
Yeah.
So I had a great time there.
That's great. That's great. Now, when you were around that age, when you were little around the house, did you listen to music at all when you were?
Most certainly did.
Well, what did you like?
Well, I loved the Bob Livorio show.
Okay.
It was on Saturdays for 2 hours, and I just really took to that music. In fact, that happens to be my wife's favorite disc jockey also. And as we got married, we both even continued to listen to Bob Livorio out there. I thought he was a tremendous guy. Of course, another gentleman we listened to was Jerry Braverman.
Yeah.
And Jerry always did a marvelous job. And of course, we had Porky on. Can't forget about Pork the Torque.
Yeah.
But didn't listen to him regularly, but was totally aware of him on the Pittsburgh scene.
Right, right. Now, you did mention your wife. Now, being that you mentioned your wife, when did you first meet your wife? Or how did that all come about for you?
Well, that came about, I met her at the Rhode Eye Lounge on Rhode Eye Road. Now, even though it was a club and there was drinking there, I actually didn't drink, but I went with a couple buddies, and we used to go there because you could dance. And I spotted my queen. I said, hey, I'm going to ask that chick for a dance. And that started a romance.
Yeah, that
really
was it,
did.
huh?
She was a very good dancer.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
What about you? How were you on the dance
Well,
floor?
it was pretty good.
You can handle your own.
My own, yes. I really enjoyed dancing. My sister and I, they had a contest a couple years before, and we were the only brother and sister act, Arthur Murray Dance Studio.
Oh, yeah, I know them.
And we actually came in second in Pittsburgh.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We had a good time.
I see you pretty good at that, coming second.
Yep,
Yeah.
we had a good time. It was very, very enjoyable. That's a memory that, again, I will never forget in my life.
Yeah, yeah. Now, let's back up just a little bit now. Television, when you were small, what kind of television shows did you like?
Oh, I liked The Lone Ranger.
Okay.
Hopalong Cassidy.
Is that right?
Yeah, sure. The Cowboys and Indians movies. Roy Rogers and things like that.
Yeah.
But they were some of my favorite programs.
Okay. Now, I've met you doing concerts, drumming for the Marcels. You were the master of ceremonies. But when we come back, would you tell us about your first concert experience, the first time you ever went to a concert?
Sure. Well, the first group that I saw was Jimmy Beaumont and the Skyliners.
Okay, when we come back, you want to tell us about
I'll
it?
be glad to.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with the legendary Mr. Frankie Day. Stick and stay. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
The show is sponsored by Frankie Day and his sponsors.
We are your #1 oldies listening station right here in Pittsburgh, PA. Please join us on 97.5 and 770 KFB.
For those of you just joining us, you are missing it. Put those groceries down. You have a seat on the couch. We're here with the legendary Mr. Frankie Day. Now, we were talking about your first concert experience. Would you tell us about that?
Well, Jimmy Beaumont and the Skyliners, again, being a young man and watching Jimmy perform was absolutely marvelous. And again, never knowing that I was going to be a DJ at this age that I am now, at 72, it really means more to me than ever. Of course, he was at Lincoln Avenue. I used to DJ dances. I used to have the dances in the Epiphany Lutheran Church basement.
Okay.
Okay? My preacher said, Frankie, you got a nice personality. You love music. Why don't we have a Sunday night dance every Sunday?
Now, how old were you then?
19 years old.
You were 19.
Yes.
You started DJing.
Absolutely.
Now,
Right.
when you playing your own records or
Yes.
somebody else
No,
provide?
No, only my own records. Didn't know any other way. And we had a great time there. Leamington Grade School was across the street from the Epiphany Lutheran Church. And I say that so everybody knows it was at the corner of Paulson Avenue and Leamington Avenue.
Okay.
A great meeting place every Sunday night for lots of young people. We had a marvelous time.
Now, you must have had a pretty nice record collection to be able to DJ.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did.
So where did you buy your records at?
Well, National Record Mart,
Yeah.
places like that. Anyone. And the thing is I kept a very close record of I kept the original sleeves. I was kind of a very organized person. I put all my records, when I start getting them, I had them all in alphabetical order. I had it all typed, labels on it. So it made it very easy for me to do dances as a young man. And I enjoyed it. We had a lot of fun.
Right.
And of course, when I met Carolyn, I invited her to the Sunday night oldies dances Saturday night, and of course, lots of our friends. And by the way, this is very important. Many couples that actually met at the Epiphany Lutheran Church with yours truly, Frankie Day, they actually got married.
Is that right?
Yes.
Thanks to you. That's got to be a good
Carolyn
feeling.
was in one of the weddings, you know, was her good girlfriend. And I tell you, we had a marvelous time.
Yeah,
Marvelous time. Those were the good old days.
Yeah.
You know, I say it all the time, Lincoln Avenue District. I've said this even on the radio. You know, we used to not lock our doors. Seriously.
Right.
You know, it was so hot inside, we didn't have fans or air conditioning. We had all the windows up, and we had a front porch and a back porch. We used to sleep out on the porches and not think anything of it.
Right.
Kids, the neighbors next door used to come over and join us. We had a good time. We had a big backyard. We had a dog for, my parents got a dog for us. His name was Spotty at the age of 7. And unfortunately, he passed away 18 years. We had the dog for 18 years. It was just like a brother. You know what I mean? And you get attached to them. And they probably, including myself, we cried for 6 months.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Really, you know. But that's when I'm saying how we don't realize what the old days and the values were. It was terrific. Yeah. And my father told me, I always felt that I had good guidance from my parents. And something that's missing today. My father said to me, one time, he said, you bring a police officer to this front door, and it's your fault, you won't walk for a month. I will beat you with the belt, black and blue. Timmy, I got to tell you, that's all he had to say to me one time. And of course, as I got older and bought a car and drove, I really didn't have a curfew because my dad said, we're going to trust you don't drink, so I don't have to worry about you wrapping the car around a telegraph pole or a tree or something like that, and use good common sense. Be home at a reasonable hour. And Timmy, that's the way I was raised. I mean, the thing is there was trust. You listened to your parents. You had respect for them. We had respect for the principal, Mrs. Truby, you know, at Leamington Grade School, and all these things. I mean, this is missing in our environment today. And this is what I say to you. Bring back the good old days. We can't, because times have changed so very much. Right. You know, beside walking up the street and knowing everybody, it's important that the fact that it brings a good upbringing. And guess what? Before you do something wrong, you know what your father said to you. Right, right. And what my father used to say a couple of times, I'd come home at 2 as I got older, a little bit. He said, I told you I'm not going to say anything. But he said, your mother's laying in bed waiting for you to come home. He said, be respectful, come home a little earlier. And Timmy, I did. Yeah, that's good, that's good. And that was the key word that you said in all of that, is that your parents took time to raise you. Exactly. And that's what my mother, she took the time to raise me. You know, if somebody does something for me and I say thank you, that's my mama speaking. Right. You know, if I bump into you and I say, oh, excuse me, see, that's my mama speaking. You know, she's put these things in us. Right. You know, and that's a beautiful thing. And like you said, a lot of children today, they miss that. You know, you know, I'm like you, man. It'd be nice if we can get back to that. Right. You know, because that's why you and I turned out like we did. That's right. You know, it's because of our parents. They took time to raise us. Well, the important things in life is God first,
Definitely.
family, my wife, my kids, my grandchildren. They mean everything to me.
Yeah,
They really do.
I believe that. That's right there in the heart.
Can't say it any better than that.
Right.
I'm being honest with you.
Yeah. Now when we go, let's go back to you're 19 years old, man. You're DJing, man. You got the people down there in the basement of the church, and they just dancing up a storm and everything. Now, at some point, that stopped for you.
Right.
What was it that made that stop?
Well, actually, after I met Carolyn, at the age of 25, we got married, okay? And we've been married 47 years.
Oh, beautiful.
This year, 47.
Yeah. You don't hear those numbers much anymore,
Not
man.
really, but
good for you.
That's an important factor. And the thing was, we bought a home. I was always pretty good handling money, and actually so was my wife. So when we got married, I didn't want to pay rent. You know, I wanted to buy a house. So I bought something that was $7,500.
Okay.
In Swissville, 7339 Schley Avenue.
Okay.
Pride and joy. It was a row house. Today they call them condominiums. It paid $150,000, $200,000. 2 bedrooms, but it was a great starter home. But we had our parents behind us. The thing is, when I went to look at the house, I took my mom and see what she thought. To give me, you know, my dad was working. He was a machinist at Westinghouse Air Brake. And then I was so excited when we found the house. I called Carolyn on the phone. She worked at the bank. I said, I think I found a house we can afford and we can move into and fix it up. She said, fine. Well, that evening, my father, my mother, and Carolyn's parents came and looked at the home. And then we made an offer. We wanted to buy it. And we were not married yet, okay? And we bought the home. And I had, the thing that I have, was so lucky in, I had a good relationship with my in-laws and still have today. My mother-in-law currently lives with us. Her name is Esther, 93. And the thing is, again, it was family. It was a family project. Her uncle came down from Newcastle, made us cabinets in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Memories.
Yeah.
Good memories.
Yeah.
Good things
That's
that
beautiful.
people don't do today.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I know one thing. You started an office business. How did that all get started for you?
Well, actually, by the way, my father-in-law started a sensational family tradition. After Carolyn and I come back from our honeymoon, he said, Frank, I would like to have you come for dinner twice a week, Thursday nights and Sundays. Now, I know you have a family, so you can split it 50-50 on Sundays. But I'd like to see my daughter and learn more about you, become family-oriented. And I tell you what, Timmy, we never missed.
Never missed.
Never missed. We never missed. And I carried that tradition on with Carolyn into my own home today. We still have Sunday dinners together.
Right.
And what a fabulous tradition that is.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful.
So that's going back to how that started. And then my father-in-law, he actually was employed by Clary Adding Machine Company. They had their home office in Regent Square. He lived in Braddock Hills. And Remington Rand bought Clary Adding Machine out of business. Well, you know, my father-in-law was making good money. So just like yesteryear or today, the big company buys the little company out. Anybody making any money got let go, unfortunately. Well, he still repaired the machines in his home. He had done work for a lot of dealers. He knew the Remington Rand equipment precisely. Mm-hmm. He could take a whole adding machine apart, lay it on the counter, and put it all back together. Very few people could do that. So, being that we always went there for dinner, he had a workshop in the game room downstairs. One day I said to him, I said, did you ever think about going into business? And he said, well, no, yes. I said, maybe we ought to start a business doing this, and I could sell the machines, and you fix them. So we teamed up. Mm-hmm. D&D Office Supplies. Mm-hmm. His name being Angelo M. Di Lorenzo, and mine being Frank W. Diddick. Mm-hmm. That's where the D&D came from. We located on Penn Avenue, 2 doors from Braverman Arms. That's how I met Jerry Braverman. Great guy. His father was marvelous. And his father and my father-in-law become very close friends. And it was very exciting that we sold equipment, machines, calculators, typewriters, and that. That was the start of D&D Office Supplies. And then what happened, you're going to love this story. How many businesses still have the original business that put them in business? Epic Metals, down in Braddock. Mm-hmm. They had a young lady there named Dawn Palmerine. And she said, Frankie, she had ordered 4 calculators. I used to dash them down there. Service, with a smile. You know, couldn't wait to get the stuff delivered, just like today, you know. And it was very exciting. And she said, Frankie, I'm dealing with 2 other office supply companies. She said, I would do anything to get you in the office supply industry. And I said, oh, okay. She says, in fact, why don't you go in the conference room, and I'll give you 2 or 3 months worth of current invoices that I have and show you the products that we're buying. And that's how I got started. I took those back because my father-in-law and I worked every Wednesday evening till around 11 to midnight. Mm-hmm. All the dealers were bringing in those machines for my father-in-law to repair. Mm-hmm. Because he did it at a job done at a reasonable price, right. And it was very good. So I asked Mike Alchek from Courier and Digest. I said, Mike, I had these people here we're selling machines to, how to get into the office supply business. If you would recommend, I know you sell office supplies. And he said, Frankie, this is a golden opportunity for you. He said, I'll be glad to give you the names. He gave me 2 or 3 names. I contacted them. Back then, of course, there wasn't computers or things like that. Mm-hmm. I was a fanatic about paying the bills for the company. I took full responsibility of filling out the credit application. And 3 or 4 weeks later, I got a call from United Stationers Incorporated. We had an account open.
All right.
And that's how I got in the office supply business. I went right down to Dawn's, gave her the catalogs, and they started to order. They still are ordering. It's one of our major accounts still today. That's how I got in the office supply business.
Now, your children are following your footsteps in this business as well?
Yes, they are. My daughter, presently, Angela, she's the president.
Okay. My
son's a computer guru and a top salesman, I may add. He just landed Massey Toyota. We're going to be furnishing their new building. So if it's office supplies or office furniture, D&D is the place to get it. No doubt about it. We joined the largest buying group back in 1988 called Independent Stationers. And I viewed this as a businessman that when Office Depot came into existence way back before the other ones came, I took a week off to go down to Florida to see what they were doing. And I said, well, what they're doing is they're buying the market share by the pricing they're offering, but they can't offer this all the time. So they forced many dealers out of business. And that's when I knew, when I came back to visiting them, I had to join a buying group. Now, a couple people used to call us every week to join their group. And fortunately for us, we picked the good one. The one that is still in business today. And so I made the right decision there. And of course, my children were very active. I had my brother-in-law, Dennis DiLorenzo, been employed for us a long time. Actually, he was the first driver. And he graduated from IUP, played football there. He played football at Swissville High School.
Okay.
That's Carolyn's younger brother. We use Carolyn's older brother, Jimmy, for our accountant, so we keep it in
the family. Now,
right?
now, this is extended into a third generation, is that correct?
Yes, we have high hopes. Well, we have 8 grandchildren.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of this. The first grandchild, my real name is Frank W. Deddick. So when my father was born, they named him Frank Henry. Then I came along, they made me Frank Allen, or Frank W., Frank William. Then my son come along, we made him Frank Allen. And my grandson, they made them Frank W. II.
All right.
Can you believe that? So I knew I was off on track, that Kelly had a little love for her father-in-law right then and there.
Yeah.
So he's 21 right now, and he is working, but we hope that we have the opportunity to bring him into the business, and he helps us when he's not in school and not on his other job, do certain things around the store.
Beautiful. Now, something happened one day. An owner of a radio station came into the dealership one day, and something fascinating happened. When we come back, would you tell us about that?
I'll be glad to.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with the legendary Mr. Frankie Day. We'll be right back.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and I do want to welcome you to another marvelous, wonderful, stupendous Frankie Day Oldie Show. Hey, this is yours truly, Frankie Day, and I'm coming to you live from the beautiful studios of 97.5 and 770 KMB, and also broadcasting live on the soundsofphillyradio.com. They will hear this portion of the show. For the next hour, I'll be playing some of your favorite sides. Guaranteed they are my favorite. Please, absolutely no phone calls this afternoon, as yours truly has predicted and put on the best music available. It's the greatest music ever recorded.
All right, we're here with the legendary radio personality, Mr. Frankie Day. We were talking before we went to the break about the experience you had with a radio station owner who actually came to your dealership, and something transpired from that meeting. Would you tell us all about that?
Sure. Bob Stevens from Broadcast Communications Incorporated. And of course, they're located at 1918 Lincoln Highway, out there in North Marcels. And actually, when I pull out, I'm at 1751 Lincoln Highway. So actually, I'm 3/10 of a mile away from the light at 48. And of course, the radio station sits up on the hill. And so within minutes, I can actually be at the radio station for my operation. And we had the opportunity to sell them, when they moved into the facility, selling them all the office furniture. And we did a pretty outstanding job. On behalf of what people think, I not only like to sell, but I like to run the sweeper, like to dust the furniture off, look the customer in the eye and say, are you happy with the product? So I know when they sign the invoice for payment, there's no complaints. The old-fashioned way of doing business. Mm-hmm. So I proceeded to leave and then come out of there, and a couple months later, we started to sell them supplies. And a couple months later, a magical thing happened. He had called the radio station, or called the D&D office supplies, and Terry answered the phone. And Bob asked Terry, he said, do you deliver to a home? And Terry said, of course, you know. He said, well, I think I'm going to stop by and pick out an office for my home out here in Greensburg. So magical things happen. Timing is everything. I normally wear a suit and tie in my business. And in fact, I still wear suits and ties most of the time to the radio station. I dress like a businessman. And Bob walked in. I introduced myself, and he said, I'm here. I talked to Terry. I want to buy some office furniture in my home. I said, do you mind if I wait on you? He said, no. So one conversation and one sale led to something magical. He picked out a corner unit, and while I was up giving Terry the numbers that Bob picked out for delivery, he made himself at home because our buying group, independent stationers, and one of the local writers wanted to write an article, a profile on Frank W. Diddick, being in business, family owned, with the concept, the inception of the superstores. And he thought this would be a wonderful time for us to get involved and him to write a nice article. Well, they printed a lot of these articles. I was on the back cover in living color with my picture, okay, and they asked me to answer 20 questions. Now, they had to be answered shortly, you know, no long report. And we did that all within 2 days. In fact, the gentleman that did the interview said it's the quickest response he ever had. He said, most people, we want to put them on the cover, and they take 2 or 3 months to get back. We didn't. Well, that's the kind of person I am. Now, it's happening now. So I answered it, and it was printed. Well, while I was giving Terry the paperwork and the numbers that Bob picked out on the furniture, guess what? I walked back to him, and he had the article there, smiling. He said, Frankie, this is one of the nicest articles I have ever seen on a family business. He said, I see you answered some questions there. He said, do you mind if I ask you why you responded this way? I said, sure, why not? So the first question he mentioned there, he says, this is question number 14. I really forget which one it was. And he asked me, what was the worst job that I ever had? Well, guess what? I told him my answer in living color. I never had a bad job, Bob. I learned something from every job. I love working with people. And then he said, that is a terrific answer. Frankie, I probably may never hear that from anybody else. But he said, hey, there's another question here. Get down a little bit. What was your favorite job, the favorite thing you did your entire lifetime? Well, guess what? It was when I was a disc jockey right there at Epiphany Lutheran Church.
Yeah.
Having a good time, spinning the sounds. And he said, well, what happened? He says, how come you left? I said, well, I didn't think there was room enough for 2 people, Dick Clark and Frank W. Diddick. And I said, besides, we were going to get married. And I bought a house. And you know, disc jockeys really don't make good money. They don't make normally enough money to buy homes and cars and buildings and stuff like that. So I immediately dropped it. Well, he said, Frankie, I have 2 disc jockeys on the air right now. Caveman Ralph and Ray Edwards, Big Ray Edwards. He said, I'm looking for a 3rd one. Would you like to come up for an interview? Guess what I said?
What?
In 30 seconds, yes. And believe me, that was an amazing, amazing thing to do. Being almost 65, 64 years old then, I said, hey, you're only going to get once in a lifetime opportunity here. It's right in front of you. He said, well, I'll call you next week. Believe it or not, he did. Hey, Thursday of the following week, he called me and said, Frankie, this is Bob Stevens. We'd like you to come up to the radio station for a tryout. I said, okay. He said, by the way, you can bring anything you want. I said, well, I'm going to bring you my theme song. He said, what? You have a theme song? I said, of course I do. Every good disc jockey has his own theme song. He said, what's the name of it? I said, it's the Concerto from the X-15, recorded by Elliott Evans in 1961. Mm-hmm. He said, Frankie, I never heard it. I said, well, you are going to hear it, and you're going to love it. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the appointment was for that following Saturday, coming up. And he's told me to come up there at 2 o'clock. I arrived at 1:45, and Clark Ingram met me with a big smiling face. And what a radio personality he is. We became very close. And he took me into the studio, introduced me to Bob. And he said, well, Frankie, what do you have? Good. I got my theme song here. He said, well, let's play it. They put it on. Well, I tell you, I saw 2 smiles in the studio that was unbelievable. Along with mine, they made me feel very, very comfortable. And he said, Frankie, we need to see how your voice is on the radio. So he gave me a set of headphones. He said, talk into this mic and say whatever you want to say. Well, guess what? I knew that was going to happen. I had a little in my
you
pocket.
were ready. Huh?
I was ready, man. I was ready to come on strong. And I said, good afternoon. Welcome to the Frankie Day Oldie Show on 770 KFB. Spending an afternoon or an evening with Frankie Day, I am oldies proud. Please enjoy the show. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, as soon as that record was over and that I talked, he said, you're starting next Saturday. I said, oh my God, I'm starting next Saturday. And he said, no, but you have to understand, you have to buy the radio time. I didn't think anything of it. I'm being honest with you. Mm-hmm. I thought the opportunity to be on the radio and to have fun, and I never had a dream about being on the radio. I mean, this was out of the clear blue sky. I mean, really, it's not something I ever even envisioned as a young man of being the disc jockey on the radio station. So, hey, we started out 4 p.m. to 6:30 was the very first show. And I do have that date, by the way. Let's see. I have it right here. March 5th, 2005.
Okay.
Was the very first show.
That was your first show.
Very first show. And I tell you, we had a good time. My wife was with me now. But I had an experience that I would like to share with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Do you think Frankie Day was nervous? Absolutely.
You were?
I was. Well, Clark Ingram, he was supposed to stay in the studio and show me how to run the board. I had no training. This equipment, I'm a guy who doesn't like to pound nails. How was I going to run all this electronic equipment? Mm-hmm. And I was using records because they had 2 turntables. And so he'd show me a few things, and he said, Frankie, I got bad news for you. He said, this jockey didn't show up at the other radio station and across the hall, 620 KHB. He said, you're going to have to do this alone. I am telling you, this is the God's truth. Mm-hmm. I was a nervous wreck. My hands were shaking. My wife said, control yourself. But you know what? I made it through that show.
You did.
And the thing I did, as soon as I got off the air, I called the owner. And I said, Bob, I have a lot of pride. I said, when can I come down and get formal training? I mean, if you're on the air, I mean, you have to pretty much, nobody's going to babysit you and give you training on the radio station. So I went back. He said, I tell you what, he said, you can come down in the evenings and go on and practice. So I took cassette recorders, believe it or not. I stayed there till 12 midnight. In fact, one night, the first night he came in, he says, you okay? I'm staying till 1. Mm-hmm. He told me that what I could do. I did that for about 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. So you talk about somebody that had to drive.
Right.
And believe me, the first shows, they were a little scary. But guess what, kept the listener? My music.
Yeah.
See, I plan all my shows out. Unlike the other disc jockeys that probably, being I was away from it so long, they knew the music. I did not know the music. And so I had to really work hard. It was a challenge for me to play good stuff. Mm-hmm. And I still have the original list of songs that I put on the airways. And I'll tell you what, they're still very, very lovable songs and being requested every day. So I knew that I was on the right track. Mm-hmm. And after proceeding with a few months and I getting better and better, I felt confident. And what happened was Clark Ingram come in. I was only on the air about 5 months after one of my Saturday shows. My wife would answer the phone, we'd take requests. And he said, Frankie, I got to tell you something. I've been in the radio business 25, 26 years maybe at that time. I've been on New York City radio stations with 2 million listeners. Mm-hmm. You are going to be a huge hit because you're sincere.
Right.
You play great music. I have never seen the phone ring for a disc jockey like this in my entire life, mm-hmm. in any radio station I've been associated with. Mm-hmm. And I took that from that gentleman. I took that with great pride, coming from him
right.
to somebody that was a nobody, and I wanted to thrive and work on it because he gave me the input, the drive to succeed as a disc jockey. And I take great pride in anything that I do. I'm a businessman. People have said, you want it done right, get involved with Frank.
Right.
He's the kind of a person, he's a workaholic. Yeah. He'll make it happen. And I'm very proud to say that we had a great time, and I thoroughly enjoy my time behind the mic, most of all playing my music, mm-hmm. and to guarantee the ballads are the biggest request. Yeah. Pittsburgh's a ballad town.
Yeah.
They love their slow stuff. And then the first Wednesday night show, I went to Wednesday night on our sister station, 620 KHB. That was May 25th of 2005. It was on 7:15 p.m. to 10 p.m. in the evening.
Wow.
Every Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And then first Wednesday, there was a disc jockey. They had the morning show previously. And Bob Stevens called me and he said, I want to talk to you. And he says, I'd like for you to take over the morning memory show. He said, you seem to be doing well. I said, Bob, but I can't do a morning show without somebody there to answer the phone. The problem I have is it rings off the hook for me. He said, well, I'll see that Barry or someone helps you the first couple weeks. And the first night I was on, was Tuesday night, Tuesday, January the 28th of 2005, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Okay.
So we had a great time, but it's the first weekday morning show on 770 KFB. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to say another word because that escalated into what I believe the #1 show in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Really.
Kicking.
I tell you what, if people would, I don't even know how to send an email. Mm-hmm. People were sending me emails. My wife was answering them. And God bless her, she's the one that put the 60,000 sounds in the computer.
Yeah.
Without her help. And Terry at D&D, he went to college to write. He has a degree for that. He wasn't using it, D&D.
Yeah.
I just formulated a partnership with Terry. And that's why I thanked him at the end of every show.
Yeah.
Terry and my wife for doing a good job.
Appreciate it, huh?
Appreciation from the heart again. And God has blessed me with a marvelous family. And for this to happen to me, I think it is absolutely
Beyond your wildest dreams, huh?
never could ever dream.
It went back to your first love, man, with that DJing,
Yeah.
man. Now, you've gotten some awards. When we come back, would you share some of those with us?
Oh, I'd be delighted to.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with Mr. Frankie Day. Don't go nowhere. All right, we're here with the legendary radio personality, Mr. Frankie Day, and we were talking about some of his awards he had so graciously allowed to share with us. This one here is of a seal of the House of Representatives of Pennsylvania, an award that was presented to him. And also, you had something else you wanted to share with us.
Well, actually, I would like to tell the audience about in January of 2011, 770 KFB finished second among 11 entries in a national poll of the top AM oldie stations conducted by veteran radio consultant Sean Ross on the newsletter Ross on Radio. Voting was conducted via the internet, with the winning station being a 5,000-watt station from Norristown, New Jersey, that can be heard in New York City. Well, guess what? Yeah. We came in number 2.
Wow.
And the reason the gentleman put me on there, he said, anybody, Frankie, that's on the air playing oldies 64 and a half hours a week until I had my stroke a few years ago, is amazing. And I want to give the audience out there the opportunity. And you being associated with the soundsofphillyradio.com, we're on the air, simulcast, broadcasting on the internet from 770 KFB, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., and 3 to 5 in the afternoon. Now think how proud I feel. They have 17 disc jockeys of their own. I make number 18, and I'm on 4 hours a day. Monday through Thursday, I have that afternoon show that's 3 to 5, and I'm also on Saturdays 4 to 5. And they've asked me actually to put me on more, but I do not have the time. I'm happy with the hours that we have there. But I would like to read this. This was an article that was printed on Frankie Day. Frankie Day has become, in a short period of time, one of the most popular disc jockeys and host of the greater Pittsburgh oldies community. He's currently co-host with Glenn Raymer on the Morning Memory Show, heard weekly, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on 770 KFB 97.5 FM and the soundsofphillyradio.com, the internet's most popular office station or oldie station. And you can go and visit that website, www.soundsofphillyradio.com. Please visit my website. We keep Frankie busy. That's what WKFB stands for.
Okay.
Did you know?
I did not know that.
Well, it is. And you say, well, how can one guy do all this? I'm a workaholic. Just this past weekend, you know, I was at the Casino Theater out there in Vandergrift, PA, emceeing the Kenny Vance and the Planetones. They get home to like 1 in the morning. And then the following Sunday, I'm going to Johnstown, PA, to Pascarella's Art Theater, introducing the fabulous hubcaps and Kenny Vance and the Planetones. We rode with Kenny Vance and the Planetones, and they're sensational. I also would like to say Frankie appears regularly as MC, introducing famous acts like Jimmy Beaumont and the Skyliners, Pittsburgh's own Pure Golds, the Marcels, Kenny Vance and the Planetones, Little Isidore, Terry Johnson's Flamingos, Johnny Angel and the Halos, the Holidays, William Dell and Wee Jams, the Vogues, and many more various networks that I MC at the Console Energy Center, the Benedum Center, the Performing Arts, the Greensburg Palace Theater, Seven Springs, St. Barnabas Keene Theater, Waterfront in Morgantown, West Virginia, and stay right at home, McKeesport, #1 for oldies, McKeesport Palisades, brother.
Yeah.
It's great. But I enjoy this. Can you tell?
Yeah, I can tell, man. You love it, man.
And I think what really separated, a lot of people said, well, he has a lot of money. No, I don't. I have good work habits. Good. I'm going to come from an old German. My father trained me that if you pay your bills, you'll be able to go far in life. Just keep your bills current. And I strive for that, believe me. So when I make a deal with somebody, they know they're going to get paid.
Right.
And working hard is just part of I like to get up early, get things underway. I don't want to stay in bed. The roses that grow, everything passes you by.
Right.
So I believe in getting up early, getting up at 5 or 4:45 to be on at 7 a.m. And again, the late hours. Now, I do not do that now, currently. I try not to work no nights at all. And that is what been fortunate. And God has been with me to give me the opportunity to achieve something that really, maybe he had an earmark for me. And I believe that, Timmy, seriously. And I think what separates me from most people, I know that the disc jockeys on my own radio station, they didn't have their names on their cars, no signage or anything like that. The first thing I do from running a business, I know signage is an important thing. Believe me. I have a 12 by 24 foot sign, KFB with the Morning Memory Show, that I pay for each and every week and month, okay, that is the largest billboard in the United States for an oldie disc jockey. I had Matt G checking it out for me from the soundsofphillyradio.com. I am on 7 days a week, playing the oldies, the greatest music ever recorded, and guaranteed nobody's even close to me. And so the only way to keep it alive, you, the listeners out there, you got to go to the shows. You got to pack the places. Like Henry DeLuca, he's got one more show down at the Benham Center. It would be a shame to see that go to waste. Believe me. This is the greatest music ever recorded. And of course, I did a good thing by keeping our oldies alive. I think why don't you show the audience that? I formed that, Keep Our Oldies Alive, with an attorney. And you can donate to the Frankie Day Oldie Show. You can make your check payables to help keep the oldies alive, to keep our oldies alive. Mail it to attention Frankie Day, 1918 Lincoln Highway, North Versailles, PA, 15137. That's how we are going to keep the oldies alive. It's a nonprofit devoted to preserving and promoting the rich music heritage, 50s and 60s and 70s. And can you feel a day without Frankie Day?
It's a scary thought, man. It's a scary thought, man.
And many of the groups feel that if Frankie Day goes by the wayside, the oldies are done in Pittsburgh.
Hopefully we'll be enjoying Frankie Day for many more years to come.
Exactly.
Well, unfortunately, Mr. Day, we're out of time. But we thank you so much for coming down, man, and sharing some of your wonderful life with us and some of your experiences, man, we will cherish for a lifetime.
Well, I want to thank you very, very much, and I hope the listening audience will listen to me to show up to all the venues, keep the oldies alive, keep Frankie Day, help every disc jockey out on any radio station, and you can listen to Power 104, WEDO, they're all stations that are playing the oldies, and believe me, we got to keep the music alive, and that's the way you do. WJPA out there plays the oldies. Let's all form together, work together. That's what you have to do to keep the oldies alive. This is the greatest music ever recorded, guaranteed.
I agree. All right. Hi, my name is Timmy Willis, and you've been asking for him, and he's back. Ladies and gentlemen, Frankie Day from the Frankie Day Oldies Show, 97.5 FM, 770 AM, music from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. It brings me great pleasure to bring to you the one and only Mr. Frankie Day.
Timmy, it's a pleasure to be back.
Oh, man.
Thank you for the invitation.
I'm so happy you came back to join us again.
I really appreciate the invitation, and the first segment went very well. The people that viewed it said, Frankie, you're the kind of a guy, it's perfect for this kind of a show because everything you and Timmy did, it came from the heart.
That's right.
And that's very important today.
Yep. And I see you got your blue on, and I have my blue on, and just so we let people know why we have our blue on. Would you tell them?
Well, the thing is unfortunately we had a death, and that gentleman, why don't you tell them the name and everything?
Mr. Cornelius Nene Hart, lead singer for the Marcels. He passed away on June the 4th, 2013. His voice was heard all over the world and still is as the voice of the Marcels. And so in recognition of Mr. Hart, we wore our blue in honor of Blue Moon, which actually was the #1 record of 1961.
How about that?
Yeah.
A little tidbit going ahead, and the first 4 songs on my first show, March the 5th.
Your first radio show?
First radio show.
Okay.
2005. It was Blue Moon. I played the 4th record, Pittsburgh's own Marcels.
Yeah.
Isn't that a coincidence?
Isn't that something?
So I loved the Marcels back then. Loved the music.
Yeah.
A strong #1 sound.
Yeah. And actually, you still love the Marcels because we just done a show not long ago, and you were the master of ceremonies.
And you know how I enjoy doing that, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, I love doing it, and of course, keeping the oldies alive here in Pittsburgh, PA, is really my main goal, Timmy. And we're working hard with all the other radio stations to keep the music alive, and that's very, very important.
Right.
And of course, the Marcels, Walt Maddox, the original member, he's actually the manager of the group today.
Exactly right.
And the outstanding members, and I've fallen in love with them.
Yeah.
And of course, I love Jules Hobson.
Yeah.
Loved Richie Harris. As a matter of fact, Richie Harris just saw my driver Joe in downtown Pittsburgh, a D&D Office Plus truck. He said, hey, knocked on the window, and he said, tell Frankie I said a big hello.
Isn't that beautiful? You know, Richard Harris, he joined the Marcels in 1965.
Long time.
Long time. He's been a Marcel for a long time. And actually, he used to sing with Dinah Washington. He also sang with a group called These Gents. He's actually the showman and the choreographer of the group. Yeah, Mr.
He does an outstanding job.
Yes, he does.
There's no doubt about it. And how about Kenny Mitchell?
Oh, who can't love Kenny Mitchell's voice? Oh man, that silky smooth tone of his voice, man. He really takes those songs, man, to another level, man. He's the most recent member of the Marcels. And he actually, you know, adds a real tasty flavor to their sound.
And I'm in love with the main man here, Ted Smith.
Oh, Ted Reno Smith, yeah.
He's great. He really is.
I remember when Ted came in, and he actually came in as the bass singer, and he's still holding strong.
Yes, he does. The whole group actually performs still currently today, very active in the oldies community. And of course, we thank them for performing. But their talents are going away from Pittsburgh, you know, to many other shows in different countries and things like that. So the Marcels still have an outstanding name, and Walt Maddox, again, has done an outstanding job with the Marcels.
Yeah, actually, I spoke to Walt today, and the fact that he's been keeping the name and the group alive actually all these years, you know, and because of him, you know, we owe it to him that we still have the Marcels, you know, Pittsburgh's own.
Yeah, that's right,
you know.
Pittsburgh's own.
Yeah, the north side of Pittsburgh, to be
That's
exact,
right.
you know.
That's
and
right.
so, actually, I had the pleasure of meeting another original member, Mr. Bingo Monday. Met him the other day for the first time, actually, and when I introduced him, I shook his hand. He said, "Oh, you work with Walt." Oh, he recognized me, you know, so it's always a pleasure, man, to meet some of those. And actually, Fred Johnson, the original bass singer,
right.
When I used to drum for the Marcels full-time, Fred was my roommate.
How about that?
Yeah, so we got a lot of stories, man, a lot of miles,
Right.
you know, that I was able to travel with them, man, and those memories I'll cherish for a lifetime.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Now, why don't you tell the listening audience out there a little bit about what you're doing right now with the Marcels?
Well, actually, right now, I just work regionally with them now. In August the 30th, we'll be in McKees Rocks, down in the Bottoms. And actually, it's their community day down there. And the next day, Saturday, I'll be back drumming for a legendary group with the original Mr. Charlie Thomas of the Drifters.
Oh, absolutely, great.
Yeah, you know Charlie Thomas, There Goes My Baby, Save
right,
the Last Dance for Me.
Absolutely.
Under the Boardwalk.
Right.
And the hits they just keep rolling.
See, that old-time music, the
Yeah.
sounds of the 50s and 60s and 70s, without a doubt, is the greatest music ever recorded.
Yeah.
And believe me, the music of today is nowhere near compared to the voices and the talent and the memories that music can bring back.
You're right.
And there's a four-letter word, love. It brings people together.
Yeah.
You know, when I play a song, people call up and say, "Frankie, you made me think about what I was doing 30 years ago during that song." You know, and that's the memories. And you know, the one thing about the Marcels, they put a wonderful hit together on their newest, latest CD, High School Memories.
High School Memories.
High School Memories. We play that all the time.
Yeah, that's a big hit in the show. And I'd like to share with you how did I become a drummer for the Marcels? Well, actually, when I came back home off the road in 1989, I ran into a young man who actually adopted me as his little brother, and he became my big brother. His name was William Herndon, and he had been singing with the Marcels since '65 as well. And he says, "Hey, man, we're going up to New York this weekend to do some shows. Why don't you come on up and play some drums for us?" I said, "Man, look, I just got married. I come home to settle down, man. I don't do that no more." He said, "Come on, man, it'll be fun." So he called Walt Maddox up and said, "Hey, Walt, you know, I got a guy, man, and he's a drummer, man, and he wants to go up to you." So Walt said, "Okay, you can come." Walt never heard me play a note, but he trusted Billy's judgment, you know.
Right,
and
sure.
So we went up to New York, actually went to Rye, New York, an amusement park called Playland. And that was the first show, the first weekend I did with the Marcels, and this year, 2013, 24 years later, I'm still here, you know. So I owe it all to the late great Mr. William Billy Herndon, who actually introduced me to when he introduced me to the Marcels, he introduced me to a whole different genre of music. See, because prior to that, I was strictly mostly 70s R&B, man, Cool and the Gang and all that stuff.
Yeah, sure.
But when I got with the Marcels, I started learning about the Drifters and the Crystals, who actually I did some drumming for as well. And it's a beautiful, beautiful music, man. I mean, the lyrics actually mean something. And you can understand the lyrics.
Absolutely.
I mean, 3-part harmonies, the vocals, the song structure, the arrangements. I mean, this is what music really is. And it kind of saddens me to kind of see the way that music has taken a turn and kind of gotten away from the real structure of a song, you know what I mean?
Right.
Just like a good building, you know, there's a certain way that you build a building. First, you need a good foundation, and then you have to use certain type of materials for certain areas.
same way you construct a song, but they kind of like, it seemed like we got away from that. You know, so I kind of like stick with you, the 50s, 60s, and 70s. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, it's fantastic music. It really is. And of course, the listeners, just about every single day when they call in, they say, Frankie, we want to thank you and your crew that are on the Morning Memory Show, Glenn, Doc, Mick, Mary, and all the wonderful people. That to keep the music alive, it's very, very important.
Yeah, yeah.
And we don't know what we'd do without you. And we receive texts while we're on the air, you know, playing this music. Frankie, another great sign. We love you. We love you.
Yeah. I tell you what was interesting is I had done one of my shows. The title of it was Love Songs Last Forever. And it was just nothing but love songs for a whole hour. And I just used some video footage that I had, some pictures that I had taken. And a guy got in touch with me. And you know what he told me, Frankie?
Go ahead.
He's told me that that show has really moved him closer to his wife.
Right.
It really made him think about the jewel that he had. And he really tightened up his relationship with his wife even closer. So that made me feel good, man. Well, that it touched somebody.
Well, it does, and it makes people feel good about what's not going on in the world today in love. And the thing is, the importance of it, the memories that it has brought not to the people out there, the listening audience.
Right. Oh, I know what the name of the show was. Love Songs Never Die.
Well, you know what? I'll give you an open invitation. Why don't you come on my radio show, the Frankie Day Oldie Show, some Friday afternoon, and we'll put that show together.
That sounds music to my ears. I would be honored.
Yeah, I think I give you an opening right here on television today to give you, I think we will work well together, and we have an admiration for the same thing, the same moral things out there in the world. We believe in God and all these things, and we want to keep all kind of music like this alive.
That's right, all the good stuff.
It's the best, forget about the rest.
That's right. Now, Frankie, I know you're always involved with different things, so when we come back, will you tell us what Frankie Day's been up to lately?
Sure, I'll be delighted to.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, stick and stay, don't go away, take a slug from a jug. We'll be right back with Frankie Day.
For those of you just joining us, we're here with Mr. Frankie Day from the Frankie Day Oldies Show, who just happens to be #2 in Pittsburgh, no, #1 in Pittsburgh, and #2 in the nation. Frankie Day, our very own, is on 97.5 FM and 770 AM. Music from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Now, Frankie, I understand that during your career that you've met some pretty interesting people. Could you tell us about some of those?
Sure. Well, the first year that I was on the radio, I had the opportunity. We always went as a family to Wildwood, New Jersey. Sometimes there was 10, 12 cars. Can you imagine that? A caravan going to Wildwood, New Jersey. And we went there approximately 39, 40 years right in a row, okay? And when I got out of my car the first year down there, I heard an oldie song. So rather than carrying anything into the hotel room or anything, I was very anxious to go hear what the music was and who was playing it, right where we had stayed, the Oceanic, for years, okay? And I heard this great oldies, and then coming out, as I turned around the bend, I had my straw hat on, and I looked in, and they were on the stage here. I didn't know who he was, but I walked over and I said to him, "Hey, I'm Frankie Day from Pittsburgh, PA. I play the same kind of music." Lou Costello, he looked at me. He said, "Frankie, come on in and join us." And he had a friend there, Matt G. And of course, Matt G is a very important man for keeping the oldies alive. He helps all the disc jockeys on the radio station, gives them music, and he cares, to be honest with you, he's helped me out tremendously. And what a fine time I had. I had the microphone in my hand in the next 10 minutes. He said, "We're going to let you introduce the Skynighters." I said, "Great." Well, I would tell you, that introduction was magic. And what a wonderful, wonderful guy I met. He's an on-air personality, WVLT 92.1 FM on the dial. And he's Philly's favorite disc jockey. That's what he even says. And who's on First Entertainment? He's been on the radio. He's a first-class, top-notch personality. But guess what? Most of all, we hit it off so well because we work together. We love the oldies. We want to keep them alive, and I fit right in. And I tell you what, he gave me the microphone at the poolside, and I introduced the Skyliner song, "Since I Don't Have You," and the rest has been history all this time, because what a relationship we have struck with those fine gentlemen. And I tell you, what a blast we have had ever since I've been introduced to him. And he is truly an outstanding guy. All the fellas down there are fantastic people, fantastic disc jockeys, and they all work in harmony. And it's important for us to keep this music alive. And I do want to tell you, a few years later, guess what? They had an internet radio station.
Internet, huh?
And I want to tell you some of the names that I'm very proud. And by the way, this is a picture of Lou Costello and myself the very first time. I want you to see that. Happiness at its best.
Yeah, I see that. Look at the smiles.
Yeah, smiling. Both of us were smiling, and both of us were eager to play the music. And he invited me out to dinner that night to come over to one of the clubs that he was playing in. Besides doing the afternoon poolside shows, he was going and broadcast live, WVLT, and do a remote, and he invited me over. We had a great time. And again, we hit it off. And I tell you what, all I can say is they asked me to join the Philly Doo-Wop DJ lineup of the Signs of PhillyRadio.com.
Okay.
Now, it happens to be the #1 oldies internet station throughout the nation. So teaming up with Frankie Day, #1 in Pittsburgh, #2 in the world, I made a perfect match. But most of all, they flew me down. I went down there and met all those fine gentlemen.
They flew you down?
Well, they really didn't fly me down. I flew myself down. I went down in my car, and they gave me a real nice room to stay at. We met in Atlantic City when they did this, and we had a great time. And Lou Costello is part of the big-time oldies internet station, along with King Arthur, the Queen, Jimmy Cannonball Parsons, Bunny and Lance, Patti Latanzi, Billy Carlucci, Ellie Hackett, The Stretch Man, Doo-Wop Cop, Barry Rosen, Kenny Jeremiah, Tommy Fallon, Jimmy Dupree, Larry Scott, and Pete D. Now, what an all-star studded lineup.
Yeah.
I think that makes 18 disc jockeys.
Wow.
Then, of course, Frankie Day.
Of course.
I make number 19.
Yeah.
And I'm on the air currently with them 2 hours in the morning, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. They're broadcasting the soundsofphillyradio.com and the Morning Memory Show. Terrific. Then in the afternoon, Monday through Thursday, I'm on 2 hours again, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. And I tell you what, it's been a sensational ride. I've had people call me from Egypt, said, Frankie, we love your station.
Wow.
We love that you're keeping the oldies alive. And of course, I think I made mention the last time, I end all my shows with, please don't forget to go to church on Sunday and thank the good Lord for a wonderful week on this earth. Believe me, Timmy, I've touched a lot of hearts by that saying.
Yeah.
In fact, one gentleman called me up from Greensburg and said, Frankie, I went back to church because you personally said that on the air. And I'm glad that you said it. You reminded me of something that when I got married, I made a vow to my wife, and I wanted to get back and do the right things in my life. And I thank you very, very much. He did. He sent me a nice email, and he called me on the telephone. So this is what I'm saying about the music, how it really makes people, the word love.
Yeah.
Really, it does.
Right.
And so that's very important. And one thing is, they invited me to go down to Wildwood, New Jersey. Now, where we stayed at the Oceanic, right to the left facing was the Wildwood Convention Center. They invited me down when they had the Skyliners as their act. They said, Frankie, we want you to come down and co-MC the show. And they also had, beside the Skyliners, Pittsburgh's own internationally known Skyliners, they had the Chantels. And then Freddie Pearson of 5 Cents. He blew me away. Yeah. I mean, the best girl group of all times, no doubt about it. And Freddie Pearson of 5 Cents, it's the #1 oldie song still today in the still of the night.
Yeah.
But he has lots of great other music too. But I got to mingle with these people. My wife and I, we drove down to Wildwood, New Jersey. We actually went with Nick Pochak from the Skyliners, 2 cars, followed him down, and we had a wonderful time associating ourselves and becoming very good friends with the Skyliners.
I was getting ready to say that. You're very good friends with the Skyliners. You know, a lot of people have been enjoying their music for decades. Well, what are they like?
Well, I want to tell you something. 99% of the people that I have met are truly outstanding people. I mean, I can't really say anybody's been a real jerk, but to sit down and have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with the Skyliners was a treat. I mean, really, they're outstanding people. And then, of course, I had the opportunity to sit down and meet other groups also in this venture down there out of town. And what the Sounds of Philly Radio have done for me, when I was in Atlantic City, they actually put me on 3 radio stations in 2 days for 2 hours. So I was out there going with Sal Angelo, who I got to thank from the bottom of my heart. What a genius he is. And Bunny and Lance, I got to thank them also. because they were the forming group, the 4 people sort of behind this whole thing, the soundsofphillyradio.com. And I just met wonderful people who happened to like what I was doing on the radio, and let's keep the music alive. And I was honored when they asked me to come down and MC shows, go on different radio stations, and have a good time.
Yeah.
You know what it is. I mean, you're going into a station, WRBG 107.9, you don't know anybody. And they put you on the 2 hours. Go ahead, do your thing, have fun, while they're all sitting there. And I did, you know. And then one night, we did the pre-show down there. They invited me down. And what a pleasure it was to sit and talk with Tony Testa. You know, I mean, really, the Duprees is a magical group. Well, one of my all-time favorites. You know, their love songs mean something to us. And to have dinner with him and then be taken to another radio station after the show was over. They said, Frankie, we're going to put you on the air. You go over 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, whatever time you make. And I answered the phone just like I do in Pittsburgh. I love answering the phone.
Yeah.
And I was on that show there for 3 hours. And I tell you, what a time I had. Believe me, being honored by these people. And of course, one thing that Lou Costello said, you know, the thing is, I really didn't know the music. I'm being honest with you. He said, Frankie, you have a talent because you play good music. You play good. You don't know the music and know all the artists, know the labels. I don't know no labels whatsoever. I'm playing from a CD, you know what I mean? I don't know labels, but love music. And I play good music. And a little bit later on in the show, I'll show you how people feel about Frankie Day, some of the emails that I have received that has been so responsive to what I am doing on the radio. And Magical Radio is unbelievable for my music.
Cool. We're looking forward to it. When we come back, you're going to share that with us.
I sure do.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with yours truly, Mr. Frankie Day.
I'm through with my old love. I loved her through and through. I'm searching for a new love. Can that new love be you? I wanna Sunday kind of love. Love that past Saturday night. Just wanna know if it's only love at first sight. I want a Sunday kind of love. Sunday kind of love. I want a love that's on the square. Can't seem to find somebody who can. I'm all alone, and I know what you love. I want a Sunday kind of love. Sunday kind of love. I'll do my Sunday dreaming and all my Sunday scheming. Every minute, every hour, every day. I'm hoping to discover a certain kind of lover who will show me the way. My heart needs someone to adore. Don't wanna know if it's only love at first sight. I'm all alone and longing for true love. I want a Sunday kind of love.
Hi, my name is Timmy Willis, and we're sitting here with the legendary Mr. Frankie Dave from the Frankie Day Oldies Show right here at 97.5 FM and 770 AM. Music from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And Frankie, you know what? Since I've been doing my show, my television show since 2007, actually, I've had some pretty heartwarming experiences. One day I was at a concert, and during the intermission, this sweet little old lady, she comes all the way across the auditorium, and she bends over and she looks at me. She says, "Ain't you Timmy Willis?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She says, "Oh, I love your show. You know, you keep up the good work." You know, at Giant Eagle, I mean, people just come up, and it makes me feel really good that people really appreciate, you know, the type of programming that I bring to them. And I'm quite sure that you have similar experiences as well, right?
Well, actually, yes, I do. And speaking of Giant Eagle, we got one right up the street from D&D Office Plus. And of course, I mentioned the last show, the studio is only like 3-4 minutes away. Mm-hmm. And but the thing is I'm so proud to say this. I mean, I'm a nobody, really. You know, but
I tend to differ.
But the thing is to walk in Giant Eagle and say, "Frankie, we'll listen to your shows," and have people, 4 or 5 people, walk up while you're doing your shopping, going through the Giant Eagle. "Frankie, keep up the good work." Now, you know how great, I mean, it makes me feel so good. You know, that I'm able to do something with a hidden talent just by playing a CD and a song. That's all it is to it. Mm-hmm. And I have received so many emails over the years. When I first went on, it was unbelievable, the amount of emails and letters that I got. I mean, I turned a lot of people on to 770 KFB, and of course, many people say that I'm responsible for putting them on the map because I do work hard. I love working hard, but I love people, Timmy, just like you do. Mm-hmm. You know, this is easy for us to do, really, because we have a true love for it. But I couldn't bring over 3,000 emails to the show.
Yeah, well, you could. It'd be a hell of a long show.
But I bring a couple here that I've received over the years, and I still retain them. Frankie, being just one of your many avid listeners and dedicated fans, I wanted to take the opportunity only to convey my sincere congratulations on your tremendously successful and popular show. But more importantly, I wanted to extend to you the best wishes on your upcoming 1-year anniversary. I don't know how all of us survived these many years. The important thing, though, is that we've had the pleasure of listening the past year and hopefully, God willing, many more years to come. We enjoyed the outstanding sounds and entertaining personality for years to come, we hope. As I have heard you many times, you're going to make a 2006 a banner year for KFB. So I figured I would enclose my gift to the most appropriate person. Big Al from Murraysville. And what did he say? Stay on fire. You are the greatest. We love you to death. Absolutely. He gave me a first banner when I go out there, play my music. Mm-hmm. He gave me a KFB hat with Frankie Day on it, mm-hmm. and he gave me my 770 KFB black and white shirt.
All right.
So the thing is it's just the little things, and him and his wife Florence currently still come in. You know, he comes in and delivers the pretzels to us, and we have a good time with that. So there's a lot of people that while we're on the air, that bring us food and coffee and donuts or whatever. It makes it a family affair. Mm-hmm. Bob Costa, the current caterer, we call him. He's unbelievable, him and his lovely wife, Sue. And here's one that the reason I kept this one out, Frankie, as I was packing my suitcase for a trip back to Phoenix, discovered you on 770 KFB. I turned up the volume, started singing. I have a terrible voice. My mother from the Rocks and my wife from Carnegie Couldn't believe the 45s you were playing. We didn't want to leave. What a great show. And they were outstanding. Too bad you don't have an affiliate station for us down here, doo-woppers in Arizona. You would be a big hit. You can imagine how many of us are here, retired, and still like to dance to those sounds. I am telling all my friends back in the Burg about Frankie Day and 770 KFB. Thanks, Mike Sable.
Wow.
I mean, they're powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Very powerful stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll do two more, but these are important. Sammy the Bull. He still calls
Sammy the Bull.
Sammy the Bull. Hey, Sammy the Bull. Hey, Frankie, my main man, you've been playing great sounds in the morning show since March of 2005. And it's been a great success. I looked up the word success in dictionary and your photograph was next to it.
Wow.
Was that great or what? And to read, some people dream of success while others wake up, work hard at it. Please play We Stroll Together by the Times. Sammy the Bull, cell block number 55. What a great guy, him and his wife. They're absolutely delicious, wonderful. They're great people.
Yeah.
And let's see, I should, I received cards. Cards, lots of cards.
Yeah.
Cards, I make copies of the cards. My wife said, I spend more time at the copy machines than I do in a year taking care of what should be taken care of. But I love what people do, and I've touched a lot of, really a lot of hearts. And last one, Frankie, congratulations. Another hour of the greatest music ever recorded. Thanks so much for filling out our day and wonderful music. We listen to you at work, and we're happy to hear another hour of your kind of music. Keep going. Another hour today, tomorrow, who knows? That's really, you ain't stopping Frankie Day. And believe me, we want to thank you for all your hard work. You're going to keep the oldies alive in Pittsburgh better than anyone. God bless you, Frankie. Linda Koza from Sharpsburg.
Wow.
She sent me that November 2nd, 2006, 1:29 in the afternoon. So this is the kind of stuff that I'm saying people don't realize. I've touched somebody's heart. You know, and I mean, the songs mean something to them, as you and I both know.
Now, for our audience, you know, who haven't had the pleasure of tuning in to your oldie show, tell them when you're on and where they can find you.
Well, sure. We're on FM station 97.5, okay, depending on what area you're in, and 770 AM on the dial. We're doing the shows on that. 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. is the morning memory show, okay? We accept phone calls. Believe me, the phone calls, the phone rings off the hook. It lights up like a Christmas tree.
Can they make requests?
Yes, it can.
Oh, okay.
So really, during the week. And of course, it shows a big hit. Then I have the Frankie Day Oldie Show for 1 hour between 9 a.m. and 10 p.m. They are, since I had my stroke, you know, they don't want me to work as many. I used to be on 64.5 hours a week, so I cut down the air time, but I do put that show on for us. And of course, we have other disc jockeys on our radio station. So of course, Big Ray Edwards is on 10 a.m. to noontime. And then Frankie Day comes back on 3 to 4 in the afternoon. And I'm on 3 to 5 on the soundsofphillyradio.com. They broadcast 2 hours. They have pre-recorded shows, so they have a show for me from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. And then on Saturdays, of course, we have the Caveman Vintage Vinyl Show, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And we have Dr. Doo-Wop. He's playing the doo-wop stuff, 10 a.m. to noontime. And then Frankie Day comes on currently 2 p.m. to 8:45, which is sign-off time. But I'm only on for 3 hours, Timmy. So 2 to 5, live, and then they're pre-recorded shows. And then I'm also on Sunday, 7 days a week. That Sunday is never in the studio myself. They are also on pre-recorded shows, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. So while you're getting ready to go to church, like I am, that's the time I go, 11:30, Mass, you can listen to oldies, have a nice breakfast, and I'll make you feel good for the balance of the day. 7 days a week.
Yeah,
and I'm honored for that. Great. And I do want to thank Bob Stevens and his lovely wife, Ashley, for giving me the opportunity to come on board to Broadcast Communications. And believe me, I've elevated the music to a different tone, and we love doing this. And of course, the Pittsburghers really cherish our sounds, but we have, I have to remind you, 770 KFB, and I never knew this, that the lower you on the dial, so for instance, 770, you get a better signal. So there's people up in Latrobe that hear us. Tip of Maryland hear us. So we're all over, besides being on the signsofphillyradio.com. And I can't wait till he gets the station on the internet, because it'll even be better. I mean, internet is definitely the way to go today.
Right. I appreciate you sharing that, because I know your radio show is hot, man. And people are saying they're listening to you talking. They're saying, well, where can I dial in? Where can I tune in? So now you got them locked in, man. And oh man, they're gonna have a good time, man.
Well,
listen to Frankie Day, man.
Yeah, right. Well, I make your day. I say that all the time. And the thing is on our building at D&D Office Plus, we have that big billboard with Gleb Raymer and myself on it with the Morning Memory Show. It's 12 feet high and 24 feet wide. But I also have a roof sign that's 8 foot by 35 feet. My picture's up there, Frankie Day. Hey, you ought to shop here, Frankie Day. I buy my stuff there? Of course I do, because I'm the owner, you know. I'm the owner. Well, I'm the founder and the treasurer right now, currently. Yeah. But I tell you what, people look up at that sign, and I just had a couple yesterday. Look it up. I said, I saw the guy looking at the oldies. I said, hey, do you listen to my show? He said, no. I said, well, here, I'm going to give you some information. You can tune it in. And I tell you what, they come back today. They were in the store. He said, Frankie, we listened to the oldies show. We loved it. So, again, there's a lot of people out there that are not aware of us.
Now, let me ask you a question, Frankie. Now, you listen to a lot of music, you've heard a lot of music, you play a lot of music. Is there a favorite Frankie Day song?
Yes.
There is?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I love the Skyliners, okay? And I love the Duprees. I love ballads.
You're a ballad man,
I'm
too,
a ballad man. I'm telling you, I am definitely a ballad man.
I love the ballads,
I mean, fast songs, I love to dance. I know that you need to play some music for fast songs. But I could play, Timmy, from 2 o'clock in the afternoon to 8:45 in the evening, all ballad show, and it will be a huge hit. In fact, I say I set the standard for all ballad shows here in Pittsburgh, because I truly love it. And the reason is again, the Skyliner music, when I fell in love with you, brings back memories. You know, and we do weddings and we do anniversaries, and these are some of the favorite songs. Have you heard You Belong to Me by the Duprees? I mean, when you see those guys sing, it makes you feel like you're 25 years old again.
Yeah.
I mean, really. I mean, this is the way I feel. I mean, at age 72, when I'm emceeing their shows, it makes me feel young, good, and God put me on this earth to do something good and make people happy. And that's a sincere fact, really.
Very good, very good.
So it's all happening with the music. It's all about the music. It really is.
It's all about the music, man. And like you, I mean, you're keeping it alive. And that's very important, man, because I'm going to tell you, once this music is gone,
Right.
what's after it? It's a scary thought in my world.
Yeah. Why don't we come back to that and I'll tell you about a little bit about my feelings.
When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with Frankie Day. Don't go away.
Somewhere, oh, somewhere. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I dream of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why, then why can't I?
Hi, we're here with the legendary Mr. Frankie Day. I'm yours truly, Timmy Willis. Hey, Frankie, 1940 was a good year for you. Tell us about that. Take us back there.
Well, the reason it was a good year to me, that's the year I was born.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, October 27th. But prices for a house were $6,558, Timmy.
Wow.
How about a car? You could buy a car for $810. Milk was 51 cents a gallon. How about gas? 15 cents a gallon. Bread, 8 cents. Postage stamp was 3 cents. And the average income was $1,231. I want to know how my parents made it. You talk about keeping the oldies alive,
Yeah.
and people living. Hey, we've come a long way.
Yeah.
Drastic things have happened with our world today. But Big Al, comment I have to say, I had listeners that would send me in wonderful things, such as Big Al from Murraysville. Dr. Frankie Day, MD, Music Day, gives no prescription drugs. He believes in all natural healing therapy. It's called music, good music. The Frankie Day Oldie Show is so hot, I had to put oven mittens on to turn my radio on. The Frankie Day Oldie Show is so hot, he had to put asbestos on his radio because it was on fire. From Jocko, Frankie, you're good to us. You're good for us. You're nice to be with. You never bore us. And your songs are absolutely fantastic. And Carol from Bethel Park, she said, Frankie Day Oldie Show is hotter than a woman's hot flash.
Wow, that's hot.
Now, that's a lot of really wonderful comments. But the top 50 countdown we put together, the Caveman and I, we had to call in and top 50. And in the still of the night, High in the Hill, Since I Don't Have You, Have I Sinned, and My True Story were the top 5 songs back in that year. And of course, the thing that I want to mention, that I kept track of all the phone calls when I answered the telephone. So if you called in a song, I wrote your name down on the right-hand side and what song it was. I'm probably the only disc jockey on the radio that has ever attempted to do anything like that, keep a record. I have a binder that is full of songs, and what I did, I made up a song list, played from that, putting the CDs in order that they were called. I know how many times it was called in a year, so I put together CDs, and I feel that that's why the show is so successful, because I've kept track of those things. And of course, I had to go out and sell the airtime. Not an easy thing to do. But I managed to discover some wonderful people who believed in what I'm doing. And this happens to be one of them right here, Mr. Dave Manns from Manns Home Medical Products. And of course, Manns Home Medical Products and Manns Drugstore, a big supporter of yours truly, Frankie Day. Taylor Auto and Service out there in Bell Vernon, big supporter of Frankie Day. And of course, these were the first couple that came on to the airways with Frankie Day to help him out. And of course, it is not an easy thing to try to sell airtime today because the economy is not good. I don't want to take no money from anybody that's suffering with their family to keep the oldies alive.
Sounds good to me, Frankie.
And you know that Henry DeLuca, who I love, and his wife Susan, Pure Gold, right here locally, PBS specials. Please do not let volume 40, the last volume, go. Don't let it be the last one. We want to keep them alive.
You want to keep it rolling. Huh?
Absolutely, no doubt about it.
Well, even if it is the last one, you know what? Fortunately for us, we got Frankie Day.
Well, and you also have other radio stations too. And of course, there's WEDO down there at 810. They're playing some oldies. You have Power 104, 103.9. They're playing the oldies. How about WJPA out there in Canonsburg? They're playing the oldies. And of course, 3WS.
Yeah.
The Sunday Night Diner. It's not the same without the main man there. But, you know, whatever, they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
So, and of course, you have WJAS with the gentleman has a nightly show there on Sunday nights. He's doing an outstanding job down there also. So we want to keep the oldies alive, listen to all the shows. Johnny Angel, with Johnny Angel and the Halos, another local group, he's doing a fantastic job. We do want to keep the oldies alive, to me.
Right. Well, I thank you for coming on, Frankie Day, man. It's been another real pleasure. You know?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and whatever you do, ladies and gentlemen, tune into the Frankie Day Oldies Show. You will not be disappointed. And so, till next time, as I always like to tell you, to make somebody happy and make somebody strong. And we like to leave you with the late, great Mr. Cornelius Nene Hart, and doing the #1 record of 1961, Blue Moon, along with yours truly, Frankie Day, doing the Frankie Day Spin. Till next time.
If you turned on your radio, you had to hear this song.
You saw me standing alone. it all day.